531.
Pacifica is the largest Pacific health provider in Christchurch, who have reopened their COVID-19 vaccination centre to meet the growing demand from our Pacifica community. Clinical Director for Pacifica, Dr. Monica Nua-George, is a general practitioner trained at the Auckland Medical School. Originally from Auckland, she moved in 2020 to take up the position at Pacifica. Dr. Nua-George is on the line with us now and live on our 531PI Facebook page feed. Whakalofalahi atu and talofa lava. Monica, thank you so much for making time to have a chat with us.
Good morning. Thank you, Iti. Thank you for having me this morning.
First of all, you've moved down there in 2020 from Auckland. How are things in Christchurch?
Yeah, it's a beautiful city. I always think, why didn't I come down here, many years ago? It's a beautiful city down here. It's not as cold as people think. It's a beautiful city. Lots of people, lots of our Pacific people here.
Wonderful. Now, in terms of Pacifica, what have you had to do at alert level 4? Have you had to cut back your operations, or have you had to scale it up with the services that you need to provide for our community?
Yeah, and some things we have to scale down, and other things we've had to scale up. So in terms of scaling down, our face-to-face medical service has scaled down because of the levels. We triage everyone over the phone before allowing them to come into the clinic. But we also have our COVID vaccination centre, and we've had to scale that one up. Because of the demand from the families have increased, that we've had to ramp that up quite dramatically in the last few days. We've also got a welfare team that was activated from last week, and so they've had to scale up that team quite dramatically as well in the last week.
As frontline staff who are dealing with our community face-to-face, have you had to be vaccinated?
Yes, so we were vaccinated well before the Delta variant has come out. So earlier in this year, our medical staff, or everyone in our organisation, were vaccinated. Yeah.
In terms of the vaccination centre, where is that at? Is it a drive-through, or do people have to drive there and then walk in? Do they have to book beforehand they come?
Yeah, so the vaccination centre is located on 173 Montreal Street in Christchurch. And it is a walk-in service as well as a booked service. So you can call us to book, or you can walk on in, because we know for our Pacific families, sometimes calling to book is a barrier. And sometimes the lines are quite congested, especially at the moment with the demand, as they may be struggling to get through. So we encourage people to walk in, come as a family, come as a household, because that is important, that we have everybody vaccinated who is eligible to be vaccinated, come together. We have a drive-through service that we set up just this week. It took us a day or two to set up the drive-through vaccination. And this is more to help keep our families safe. So that we can increase our capacity to take more of our Pacific families. Because of the levels, we restrict the amount of people that can come into the clinic. So the other way to access it is through the drive-through. So you don't even have to get out of your car, just drive in, collect your information, vaccinate you, and then you drive home. So nice and easy. And so we are open Monday to Friday, 9 till 3:30 for the drive-through and 9 till 4:30 for the walk-in clinic.
What are the busiest times for you, for our communities listening there in Christchurch, so that not everybody's queuing up at the same time?
Yes, that's a good question because everybody loves to come after lunch. They have their morning, whatever it is, routines that they do at home, and then they come in from about midday till about 3 o'clock till 4. So we're encouraging people to come early, come in the morning, because a few people come nice and early, especially those who are booked will be here, but we have a huge capacity for those who are just needing to walk in or drive through. We're encouraging our Pacific families to come in the morning.
Speaking of families, you are now also vaccinating 12-year-olds and upwards.
Yes. Yes, so that came last week, Thursday or Friday it was, and it was always on the cards. We knew that the children would at one point be vaccinated, but because of the levels, the ministry have reviewed that evidence and have approved that for our children to be included in the vaccination. Children overseas have been vaccinated. So we know the information from overseas and the data from the trials that it is safe to give to children in the same way that it was approved for pregnant women and breastfeeding women. All of that has gone through the checks and have been approved as information started coming in for our ministry. So, yes, children are now eligible from the age of 12. So they must be 12 when they vaccinate. They cannot be turning 12 in a week or two. They must be 12 to be able to get the vaccination. And children can consent for themselves if they are deemed able to understand the information. They can provide their own consent. If there are children in that age group who are not able to understand the information, then their parents are able to provide that consent on their behalf.
Now, with regards to our community there wanting to get to where you are, is there sufficient parking for people who want to walk through rather than go through the drive-through, or can you tell them now at this point if they're driving in whether it's best for them to queue at the drive-through or walk in?
So there is, because of the levels, the businesses around us, because we are in the city and everyone knows that parking in the city costs money, but because of level 4, the streets are empty, the car parks are empty, so there is no issue in terms of parking at this time. So they can park on the road, the parking spaces around us, and walk in. Our team is standing out on the roadside to direct traffic. If we see there are large families in the cars, then they will be advised to go through the drive-through. The wait is not too long in the drive-through at the moment.
Yes. Now, are there issues unique to our community in Christchurch?
Probably not unique to those in Christchurch. It may be that the urgency on our end is not as much as it is in Auckland, because the cases are there and there's no cases here in Christchurch, which we are quite blessed that there aren't any cases. So there's a certain sense of urgency isn't here as much as it is there. So we just want to encourage our families that this is a great time for us in Christchurch or in the South Island to get ourselves vaccinated, because it will become much harder once the Delta gets into our area, as in the demand would increase even more. So we want to encourage them to come through. We know that there is a lot of fear because there's lots of information out there. So we are asking them to ring us, to join the MPP meetings in the evenings. We will have a regional meeting that is planned for early next week to communicate with our community leaders and organizations so that we can connect with them directly about what we are doing here in Christchurch and to provide information, answer any questions that they may have. But our message at the moment is get vaccinated, and we are open, walk through, booking, please come down and get vaccinated.
Yes, speaking of questions, Dr. Nua George, the government has given reassurance to our communities without the proper papers, immigration papers, shall we say, that they are not going to be caught up in this net. I see that they are asking for us to bring our NHI numbers?
Yes.
What if we do not have an NHI number, which might indicate that maybe we are not in the system and we are overstaying?
Yeah, so the message is everybody who is in New Zealand right now, whether your visa is current or expired, you are all eligible as long as you are over the age of 12 to get vaccinated. We know that our system is not linked to immigration, so there is no sharing of information from the medical side to immigration. If you don't have an NHI, that is not a barrier to get vaccinated, but we can still do vaccinations for those who do not have an NHI. We have a paper form version that we would use for the consenting, and we hold a paper form version of those who do not have an NHI. Our team can also create NHIs. For those who do not have an NHI, our admin team can create an NHI for those people. So we have systems in place to help support those that we cannot find in the system so that they can still get vaccinated without any concerns of their visa status.
Clinical Director for E2 Pacifica, Dr. Monica Nua George, whakawelahi mahaki for your time and wishing you and your team there in Christchurch all the best.
Great. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You're listening to Early Edition with E. 531 PI is the station that brings Pacific people together. That was E2 Pacifica Clinical Director Dr. Monica Nua George talking to us about their clinic. Vaccinations can be, you can get vaccinated there and go online to find out more information. E2 Pacifica is what you search for.